Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. My name is Debbie Matulowicz. I'm in the marketing department here at Sadlier. And with us is Victor Valenzuela. First, I do hope that you're all safe from the cold. I think coast to coast, everybody's pretty chilly. So we really do appreciate your being here with us. This is one of several webinars that we've had in our Year of Faith series. If you go to our website, sadlierreligion.com/Year of Faith, you'll find very many resources on the Year of Faith which we offer you, including a link to different webinars which we've had in case you've missed some. Again, we'll refer to this at the end of the webinar. But let me begin to introduce you to Victor Valenzuela. I'm sure many of you already know Victor or have heard him speak. Victor is our National Consultant for Bilingual Resources. He presents at numerous national conventions as well as regional and local meetings. And he's here today to talk with you about technology in the classroom. We all know it's of a lot of concern to everyone because you know that's how our students communicate. And I know from my own experience, my own kids, if I need to ask them a question, I text them instead of calling them because they just don't answer the phone. But beyond that sort of texting and mobile technology, we have social media and other resources, which Victor will be talking about during his presentation. So without further ado, I will be presenting now Victor Valenzuela. You will be seeing his screen, and he'll be beginning his PowerPoint. So again, thank you, and welcome. Victor?
Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for joining us today. Today we're here to talk about the 10 ways that technology can improve your religious education. And I don't know, can they see my screen, Debbie?
I'm not so sure. I don't see it.
I haven't gotten the command to share the screen.
I have you as page presenter.
Okay.
You got it? Yes.
Okay, good.
There we are. Thank you, folks.
So today we're here to talk about the 10 ways that technology can improve your religious education. And this is obviously, as Debbie has just pointed out, a topic that is key right now in all of education, in public schools and all over. I think the last place sometimes that this kind of a thing seeps into is religious education. And so hopefully today I'm going to try to demystify this whole technology and religious education so that you can make it work for you in your parish setting. Before I go any further, if you notice at the bottom of the screen here, there is a web link for sadlier.com/Victor. If you go to that website after we're done today and you look up under local presentations, you will see the title of this presentation in there in a handout that you will be able to then print out and be able to use. And the reason, sometimes they give out handouts and they're not really important, but this one I think is important because it'll have a lot of web links that you might want to then go and explore on your own because we may not get enough time to see all the web links. Technology for some of us that are in catechesis, especially of a certain age, is something that we're a little bit afraid of. And obviously, technology has changed our world a lot. And just take a look at this first image that I have for you, a little cartoon of what technology used to be like back in the 1990s. It's a little blurry on my screen, might be a little blurry on your screen. And look at the changes for now. Well, in the 1990s, we were skinny and our TVs were fat. But now things have turned around. Our screens are thin and, well, we're a little bit rounder around the edges. Take a look at these other changes in technology that have happened. How many of you remember the black rotary phone that we used to have? I tell people I used to hate when somebody used to give me a number that had 998 as the first three numbers because you had to dial that 9 and wait for that rotary dial to return all the way back to the beginning. And then take a look at the record player, the cassette player. Imagine how far we've come now. We don't even use these devices anymore. Everything is digitally downloaded onto our device, mainly an iPod or an iPhone or something like that, where we access all our music nowadays. And then take a look at the black and white picture here in the corner. What's really interesting to me is not so much that there's a little tiny black and white TV set in the corner, which was probably very unique at that time, but the fact that the family is gathered, even the baby, look at the baby in the mother's arms, gathered around the TV to watch television. You know, television for the first, I'd say, 10, 20, maybe even more years, was a group activity. It was a family activity, and what's important about that is that you were able to share or have a conversation about what you were watching on the television, share values, share ideas. That has totally changed because now we don't have that. We don't have that group mentality for television. Television now is a private affair. You know, every room in your house probably has a television. I've heard even some places have televisions in the kitchens and televisions in the bathrooms. So it's totally changed the dynamic of watching television. And then do you know how these two things are related? I always tell the funny story about how we used to label these cassette tapes with our favorite artist or mixtape, and then you'd spend hours making these cassette tapes. I don't know about you, but I used to spend hours because you had to record on the radio. So you'd start and stop and record all your music, and once you had spent hours and hours making this perfect tape, then you'd put it into the machine, and guess what? The machine would eat it up. And so you'd take this pencil and try to rewind that tape because you were that music took you so long to record. And then take a look at this computer. This is probably from the 1950s, one of the very first computers. It probably filled a whole classroom like the ones that you're used to for religious education now. And it's pretty amazing that the computers were this size. An iPad today probably does 10,000 things more than this large computer did at that time. And then look at some of these initial computers that first came out. The one in the left-hand corner where they're trying to train some guy and some lady on how to use this big fat machine that nobody seems to, they kind of look confused if you ask me in the picture. But then you look over at the first desktop computer that came to offices probably in the 70s with those big floppy disks that you used to put in them that held very little information. And then down below is the very first Apple computer. As you know, Apple computer was built in a garage. And so they just took materials that were handy in a garage to make their first computer. I would imagine they hooked up this wooden thing to a television to try to see the information that was on there. These advances have been very difficult to make over time, to go from that big computer to the desktop to the Apple and now to the iPads. It's been a very difficult transition. And a lot of time, especially for those of us that are older, we have a certain fear of new technology. We have a certain apprehension, especially when a new technology comes in. I've given this workshop several times, and it's amazing to me how many people will tell me with a lot of pride, you know, not only do I not have a computer, do I not have email, I don't even have an iPhone, and they declare it as if, or even a cell phone is I think what they mean. They declare it as if it's a badge of honor that they've not fallen into technology, that they've resisted it. But I often wonder if they ever got stuck in an emergency, what would they do if they did not have a cell phone? So I call these folks that are in this category technophobia. They have a certain technophobia, which means that they have this persistent and irrational and abnormal fear of doing something new, especially when it comes to technology. And the reason why I have an outhouse there as a picture is because I often wonder if we had this technophobia towards outhouses back in the day, would we still be using them in this day? You know, we're very blessed in this country to have all the computer access that we do have. I've had a chance to give this presentation where people have been in the audience from, let's say, Mexico. And they say, you know, in this country there is no excuse for not having computer access, because in Mexico they said the computer access is at 20%. I heard this about a year ago. And here in this country, obviously we have computer. If you don't have a computer at home, there's computers in your public library, which is in your neighborhood. There's computers at your parish. So I think for us in the U.S., computer access is not an issue, especially when it comes to religious education. And if you're still feeling like, oh my God, I'm still afraid of computer access, look at these two guys with their computers. The first one here at the top is obviously Blessed Pope John Paul II, who's about to be a saint. And look at, he looks like he's on his little laptop there. I figure this painting, this picture is about 10 years old, and this is probably the launch of the Vatican website back in the day. So what's amazing to me about this picture is that he's going to become a saint soon. So we're going to have a saint that has been on the internet pretty soon when they make him a saint. And then look at the bottom. This is Benedict the 16th when they launched the Vatican's Twitter site. And as you know, in December he launched his own Twitter feed, which I just read this morning actually, where he actually puts his own personal thoughts about current events that are going on. So you might want to check out the Pope on Twitter. And I understand tomorrow they're going to launch an encyclical. They're going to write a letter from the Vatican embracing social media and positioning it as the new avenue of the new evangelization. You know, we've been talking a lot about the new evangelization. So apparently tomorrow there's going to be a document that will be released from the Vatican that will be embracing all the new social media like Facebook and Twitter and those kinds of things, which we will talk in a little bit. And did you know that we have a saint of the internet? Saint Isidore of Seville is the patron saint of those of us that are in cyberspace, that are on the internet. We have him here. The reason they made him a patron saint, he was a doctor and a professor of theology and doctrine, and he was very interested in research and in all kinds of investigation in theology. And so I think because he was interested in research, and apparently most of us, that's what we do on the internet, is research. We search for things. They made him the patron saint of the internet. So we're going to cover 10 ways that technology can enhance your religious education, and these are the 10 ways. And when I first devised this presentation, it had no real rhyme or reason in these 10 things. These were just 10 things that I felt were really important for people that would be maybe getting starting with technology or maybe a little bit more advanced. But I will tell you that as time has gone on and I've reflected on these 10 things, each one of these is building on the other one, as you'll see as we go through them. And the main goal is way at the bottom, number 10, parent communication. Because, you know, the central part of our catechesis is to make the parents realize that they are the primary catechists of their children. I think sometimes you know, parents give us that responsibility by dropping off the kids and not being too involved, and then we take over full control of that. And I think technology is one more other way to help us return that responsibility to parents so that they fully know that that they are the primary catechist of the child. And so we'll see that as we go through this presentation. And so, and one of the other things that I wanted to bring up here as well, a little, when I do this presentation live, I always ask them a little survey question. How many people have a lot of understanding of technology? And several people raise their hand. How many people have no understanding of technology? And several people raise their hand. And how many people are in the middle? And a good number raise their hand. And the reason I do that exercise is because I think there is, when people come to this workshop, there's some of us that are so advanced in technology that if you talk about basic things, we get bored. And yet, on the opposite end of the spectrum, there's people who have some people don't even have email. And so for them, a lot of this stuff is maybe even going over their head. So this presentation is aimed right at the middle, at those people that are at the middle, and hopefully either ones at the extremes can catch a little bit of information as we go through each one of these points. So let's start with communication. One of the things that technology really has improved for us in religious education is communication. It has given us tools to be effective communicators and in some cases instant communicators with parents. Now all the communication and all the social media and everything that I'm going to talk about in this presentation, just to be clear, is with parents. I'm not talking about emailing children. I'm not talking about social media with children, because as you know, in a lot of our dioceses, we have a lot of policies about that. And I would suggest that all of you consult your electronic media policy that your diocese has. Most dioceses that I've been in have some sort of policy for electronic media. But when I'm talking about emailing here, I'm talking about emailing parents and being in communication with parents. And if you don't have an email address, that should be your first place to start with communication. It's hard for me to imagine that there are people out there without email addresses, although in the times I've done this workshop, I will get a handful of people that say, I have no email address, and I often wonder how they're getting along in life, but apparently they're doing it some way, somehow. So if you don't have an email address, it is the easiest thing. You do need an email address in order to be able to get onto a lot of these websites and be able to communicate with people. And there's various places where you can get one: Yahoo, Hotmail, Gmail. And the good thing about this is that it helps you establish communication with the parents. And of course, because of you have their students or other catechists that are in your group. Especially now with the advent of the smartphones, email is almost instantaneous. One of the examples I use, let's say they're preparing for their first communion, and the class is not learning their prayers as well as you'd like them to, the Our Father and the Hail Mary. And so one of the things you might want to send out is a quick little reminder. Now in the past, we'd type out a little note on paper and we'd go to the Xerox and copy it and send it home. Now you can send an email which goes directly into their inbox, and with these smartphones, it flashes on their screen in a few seconds. And it's convenient for parents to see, oh, we need to practice our prayers. And so, again, this is one of the ways that email, I know some people are thinking that's a very basic point, but for some people, there is still a lot of usability in email. One of the things that I always talk about with people is establish some sort of etiquette for email with your parents. So at the beginning you might want to say, this is just for communication, and maybe give them 2 or 3 rules about it so that they're not sending you spam emails, those long emails with pictures and PowerPoint presentations, because maybe you don't want that kind of thing on there. So it's up to you how you want to establish that email etiquette that you want to have between you and the parents when you go through. So that's communication with email. And then one of the best things still, I think, about technology is search. Search is one of the very first things that was created with the internet way back in the late 80s, early 90s, when all these search engines started to pop up like AOL and such. To me, it's like the internet is like a giant encyclopedia. You know those encyclopedias that you used to buy when you were a kid. I guess there was 26 of them with, you put them on your shelf and you hardly ever looked at them. But as with those encyclopedias a lot of time had information in them that you would go to as reference material. And 9 times out of 10, when you would go to them, the information you felt was reliable. You went up there and you looked up something and you thought, oh, this is a good information on what I'm looking at. Let's say you were looking up elephants and you went up to your encyclopedia. The difference between that and the internet is that you've got to sift through the internet, because you can type in elephants on the internet, but you might get a lot of junk associated with that. Now, this whole concept of the internet as a place where you just go to read information is what's called Web 1.0, and I'll explain that a little bit later because now we have Web 2.0. I'll explain the differences to help you understand that in a minute. But one of the things that you can do is, if you have catechetical questions, you can go to the internet and type in your question. For example, the Catechism of the Catholic Church is online. You can type in, the Catechism of the Catholic Church, and then type in your question after that, and it'll take you to the exact place on the Catechism where that answer is at. You can search for activities as well. Let's say you want to teach the Rosary and you don't know, you don't remember any activities, so you'll go on there and say, how can I teach the Rosary to children? And all of a sudden, all these web links will pop up with ideas for how to teach the Rosary to children. When you're doing middle school and high school ministry, you can type in topics that are of interest to the kids, like depression. How do I talk to teenagers about depression or angst or all kinds of issues that are in there. One of the things that I always caution people when they're going to type in for activities, or especially Bible verses or Bible activities, is I always tell them to put the word Catholic in their search box. So let's say you're typing, you want a version of the Good Samaritan, an activity for the Good Samaritan from the Bible. So you type that into your Google search or any other search engine. But I always put the word Catholic because, as you know, various other denominations and Christian denominations have a different way of interpreting Scripture. And so if you put the word Catholic, you're assured that you'll at least get activities that are pertinent to the Catholic faith. So search, I think, is still a great tool for us in religious education. And one of the things that I like to do in search is image search. So image search, you go to Google, and at the top of the bar in Google, you'll see images. You'll see a little menu that's called images. And you'll type the name of the image. And so here I type the name of Jesus, and this image that you see on the screen popped up when I did the image search. So I will print this image, and you've probably heard me give this activity before, but I get such good feedback from this activity. I'll print this image, I'll put it in a frame, and then I'll put instructions on the back. The instructions can be a lot of things. They could be prayers. They could be how to set up an altar to Jesus. They could be questions for reflections about Jesus. They could be scriptural quotes about Jesus. And then what I will do is I'll take this framed picture with the instructions in the back, and I'll bring it to my catechetical session, and I will say, this is the Jesus that will accompany us in our class this year. They'll all look at it, and what we're going to do is I'm going to give it to Mary, because Mary is then going to take it to her home for the week. And so Mary takes the framed Jesus home. They look at the instructions at home. It's a good way for them to do activities with the Jesus in their home. And then she brings it back the following week and gives us a little report. And then she passes it on to Johnny, and then that goes to Billy. So it goes all around the catechetical group until it comes back at the end. Now, some people have criticized this activity as saying, well, you know what's going to happen. These are kids, and Jesus is going to get lost. He's not going to return. And my reply to them is, well, you know, I think Jesus is old enough to find his way around. So I think if he gets lost, he'll figure a way to get back. And secondarily, if Jesus got stuck in a home somewhere, maybe he really needed to be in that home. Maybe that's the place where he needs to stay. And for us as catechists that have learned about giving things to kids, we need to know that maybe we need to make multiple copies on the front end. You know, we printed it off the internet, so it was free to us. So we could make multiple copies to be able to pass around to the children. I just had somebody call me the other day about how this activity has really touched people's lives. A woman called me and said somebody took the Jesus home, and that week they had a horrible death in the family, and so it was really nice for them to have the Jesus from their catechetical class in the home to comfort them while they were there. So this is something, again, where we can marry technology, which is the new technology, with some of the older technology of print, and we can do the Jesus in your home activity. From this search piece, we move to now what we call Web 2.0. Now, Web 2.0 is different from Web 1.0 because now we're beyond encyclopedia kind of knowledge where we go to the internet and read stuff. Now in Web 2.0, we become participants with the with all these websites. So part of me gets involved, and maybe it's not me personally, but the community gets involved in a website. I'll give you an example. My favorite example is reading a newspaper. I log on to read my newspaper on the web page, and I'll read the article, and it's all fine and well, but at the bottom of the article there are people's comments that they've been able to put in, and sometimes the comments are more fascinating than the article. Sometimes the comments could be even more precise than the article. I'll give you an example. If the article is talking about a car crash in a neighborhood and you read the article, and then down below in the comments you'll read somebody will say, I live across the street from that car crash and this article's wrong. It really went this way and this way because I was an eyewitness. And you go like, wow, you can really get firsthand knowledge sometimes and opinions, obviously, and sometimes some crazy opinions on those comments that people put in those kinds of comments in newspapers. But that's Web 2.0, where I get involved, or where people get involved with the content that's on the web. One of the biggest ones is, of course, blogs. Blogs are major. I think there must be a million, maybe even a billion blogs out there on every topic possible that you can go to and you can read information. And again, that's people sharing their own information on a blog. The Vatican has a blog. We have a blog. I'm going to try to go on it right now so you can see an example of it. My coworker, Kathy Hendricks, does a blog, and here's her blog that you can see. Let me see if I can make this bigger for all of us. And she writes about her personal spiritual journey as it relates to catechesis. She's a teacher and a catechist, so all her experiences. This one happens to be about previewing Lent, which, as you know, is coming up in a couple of weeks. So if you have a chance, you might want to go to Kathy's blog, We Believe and Share, and get an idea of that. So there's also other blogs. Catholic Mom is a very popular blog that has activities. I'm not quite sure the history of Catholic Mom, but somehow in the back of my mind I thought she was homeschooling her child and doing religious education with her child, and that's how she developed this blog to share activities. And so there's a lot of information on Catholic Mom that you might want to use for your religious education. Your diocesan office, most bishops now have blogs and some pastors even in parishes, where you can read a lot of information from that. So there's lots of blogs that are out there that you might want to go to and take a look at. And then, of course, we get to the big social networking. As you know, social networking is kind of taking over our world. I've heard statistics in the past where so Facebook is more visited than even Google search. More people are doing their search for videos and for music and for pictures on Facebook than they are on any other place. Facebook, Twitter, and Pinterest are three very big places where you can become social and share information. We have, I'm going to try to see if I can go here on our Sadlier blog, but this is our Sadlier Facebook page. Let me see if it comes up. Yes. And we can share a lot of information on our Sadlier, let me close here, on our Sadlier Facebook page. Somehow there's a little screen here, but you can see here we link to Kathy. Here's Kathy's blog that we were talking about. We can click to lecture series. We can click to many things. We're putting up a lot of Year of Faith resources. This is an article that's written by Father Peter that's on our website. So we can keep you updated on all the resources that we have in our sites, so that you can kind of get activities, get ideas from all the things that are on Facebook. One of the other things that you can do with Facebook is you can create a Facebook page for your own class. And I know a lot of people are thinking, oh, there's a lot of dangerous things going on Facebook and mean people doing crazy things. But you know, Facebook has a lot of controls where you can specify who has access to your page. So if you create a religious education page, let's say 3rd grade at St. Joseph's, then only the people with those emails that you allow into that Facebook page can go in there. And this is a good way, again, to update parents on activities that that you're doing, or maybe even homework that you'd like the child to do at home. And again, with the smartphones, I don't know about you guys, but I have an iPhone, and I know I get Facebook notices on my iPhone. So if I post something on Facebook, I can it then pops up on my iPhone or other people's iPhones as well. And so Facebook is a great resource to be able to use in the religious education class as well. And then there's Twitter, and I'll just show you an example of Twitter in case you've not seen it. I actually was one of the resistors. I know I talked about people with technophobia originally. I was Twitter phobic at first, but now I do have a Twitter account. But here's Sadlier's Twitter account, and you can see that we keep it up to date, and we give you a lot of activities. Some of the stuff was just put up 42 minutes ago, so we're constantly updating our Twitter feed with various activities and various things that are going on within our web pages and within our resources. So that's another place that you can go to get ideas from Twitter. And so that's Twitter. One of the really interesting social networking sites that a lot of people may or may not have heard of, but a lot of people have been, and I like the way it's laid out actually, is Pinterest. Pinterest, I guess, started as a crafting website for people that had hobbies or crafts and that kind of thing. And so the concept with Pinterest is that it's like a corkboard. You know, that when you have a corkboard in your house, and if you have an organized corkboard, I guess, in certain areas you pin all your recipes, and in another area you pin all your child's school notices, and then in another area you pin all your appointments. So that's the way Pinterest works, is it has various documents that are pinned together. Let me show you an example of that, because I think, oh, here it is. Pinterest has all these things that are put together, and see how they're categorized. You can see, let me make this bigger for you. See how they're categorized. The graphics somehow did not come down, but you get an idea. See how they're categorized by catechist resources, Catholic prayers. You know, there's 17 things in Catholic prayers. Well, we're past Christmas, but this will be good for next Christmas and Advent. But you can see Catholic reflections. I remember seeing sacraments, if you want ideas about sacraments. See how we have 8 things pinned on sacraments. So Pinterest, and it's more graphic than this. I don't know why I wasn't able to get all the graphics, but, oh, there they are. But you can get an idea. There's here, I really like these Catholic prayers because they have a lot of these ready-made prayers that you can use in religious education, as well as the Catholic saints. So that's Pinterest that you might want to look up and use, and you can potentially create your own Pinterest account for your religious education class and have ideas on there as well. And then let me talk about another very basic tool. PowerPoint is probably as old as computers themselves. I remember PowerPoint back in the 80s that it existed, and I know people are thinking, God, that's just the oldest thing on earth. I still think PowerPoint is a very valuable tool for religious education. You know, if a child is in religious education and you're talking to them and maybe doing some group activities, and then all of a sudden you turn on the PowerPoint, you know, the projector in the computer, that kid's going to perk up and look at the screen and wonder, like, oh, wow, what are they going to put on the screen? And that's one of the issues that I raise when we do this workshop live, is the whole concept of the projector and the equipment needed for PowerPoint. You know, it used to be that those projectors used to cost in the thousands of dollars back in the day, and now you know, you can get these projectors very, very cheap. I think you can get an LCD projector nowadays, maybe a used one, for about $100 to $200, especially if you're shopping online, and if you're looking, like Amazon sometimes has used projectors. So it's not that expensive. And of course, an iPad nowadays, a brand new iPad is $500, but you can get an iPad, some of the older generations, for $200. And between an iPad and an LCD projector, you've got a PowerPoint presentation. But beyond that, a lot of our classrooms in our schools, in our parishes, are already equipped with PowerPoint. Some of them even have those fancy smart boards in them, which you can use PowerPoint on. And I know what people say, oh, well, though the teachers don't allow us catechists to use the PowerPoint equipment, or they say we're going to break it, or, you know, one of the points that you've got to stress is that that's parish equipment, and it should be shared amongst all of us. So I would challenge you and challenge them to say this is parish equipment, because I do think PowerPoint is a valuable thing to use in religious education. Keynote is the Apple version of PowerPoint. Google offers a free presentation tool similar to PowerPoint. I've used it a couple of times. It's a little bit cumbersome, but it is on there. So basically, PowerPoint is an electronic board. You could be a video player, and you can do digital books as well on your PowerPoint. This link here, which I won't go to because of time, is called AuthorStream. AuthorStream is a website that has already made PowerPoints for you. You go there and you can download the whole PowerPoint and you can show it to you. They have a lot of spiritual ones with pictures and music. So maybe if you're ever doing a prayer service and you want to use PowerPoint, you can go to AuthorStream and use some of their ready-made ones that they have. And then we get to video. This is probably the magic of using the LCD projector, a computer, and the internet. Video, and especially YouTube, I think is a great resource for all of us. I'm going to give you some examples, and these are just little snippets because I'm conscious of the time. I believe this first one that I'm going to show you is something called That Catholic Show. And That Catholic Show is a show that talks about common things that are in our church. This first one is about doing what they call Catholic calisthenics, which means, because Catholics kneel, sit, and pray all the time in church, we get a workout when we go to church. But you can see the production value of these videos, and they have various ones that teach various topics that you might want to use in your classroom. And I don't know if the sound will come through, but you can see I'm very impressed by the production value. And my internet is a little bit slow, but you get an idea. Yeah, I'm going to get out of this only because my internet's a little slow, but you get an idea of what's on YouTube to be able to use in your classes. One of the ones that I've been using a lot lately when talking about the new evangelization, I've been equating the new evangelization to that scripture story where, I don't know if you remember that scripture story where Jesus comes to the shore after the apostles have been fishing all night actually, and he says to them, go back out and cast your nets deeper. And there's a little resistance from the apostles. They're saying, no, we already did that. And he tells them, go out and go deeper. And so they do. They go out there, and the rest of the story, the boat fills up with so much fish that it's starting to sink because they listen to Jesus. And so that, to me, is the new evangelization that the church is asking us to go deeper, and not necessarily outreach to other people, but go deeper within our communities. And so in thinking of this concept of going deeper and fishing deeper, I found this little video, and I'll just describe it to you. I'll show you a little snippet in a bit, but I'll describe it to you. It's from Sesame Street. It's Bert and Ernie, and Bert is teaching, actually it's the other way around. Ernie's teaching Bert how to fish and how to fish a little bit deeper, and it's a great way to talk to kids, little kids, about new evangelization and about going deeper within our faith. And so here I'll give you a little example of it. Let's see if my internet works as fast as we're hoping it will work. I've used this a lot, and people have really liked the image of it, and it is not uploading as fast as I would like it to. But there's the link for you, and it's a cute little 2-minute video that you will be able to access, and you'll be able to use it in your religion. Again, with a projector and a computer, you could be showing this on the big screen for children. Yeah, it doesn't look like it's going to upload, but the link is here for you. It's this first link, and there's other links here. One of them is also, oh, here it came up. Let me see here. There it is. There's the video, and there's Ernie teaching Bert how to fish during the in a lake. But anyway, I'll let you watch that at a later time. So there are many links here that you can use. One of the other ones is called the 10 Commandment Boogie, and it's this group that is singing about the 10 Commandments in a very kind of a dance way, with little kids can get up and dance to the video so that they can learn their 10 Commandments. So those are all on these links here that you might be able to use. And again, here's some more. I even pulled some from our We Believe website, where we have some videos for kindergarten kids, and then we have some games on our website as well, which are these 2 links down here that you'll be able to use. One of my favorite tools to use in religious education is music. Music, to me, is, I think, the best way for us to teach religious education, especially at the very primary grades. So K through 3, 4, I think kids should be singing all the time in their religious education class. And so I think these tools here, which are on the screen, iTunes, which is, of course, a place where you have to enter your information and your credit card. That's the only downside about iTunes, is you have to have a credit card in order to be able to use it. but it does have all kinds of music, even Catholic music, music that we use in Mass, and music that is spiritual. So iTunes is obviously a great resource. OCP.org, which actually does a lot of the music that we use in our, that goes along with our We Believe series. They have a download site, but it's very limited. I'd say they only have 100 songs on there, maybe less. But let's say you don't want to use your credit card, and let's say you want to try to get free music anyway, you could go to YouTube, because a lot of these artists that publish music or that put out music put out a video of the song on YouTube. And again, YouTube is completely free, and if you get an LCD projector and your computer, you can not only play the song, but the kids could see the visual of the artist singing the song. So I think music is still a great way to go, and technology obviously has made music so much available to us. On WeBelieveWeb.com, we have the lyrics to the songs that go along with our CDs that are a part of our We Believe series, because I firmly believe that if you're going to use songs in religious education, you should have the children sing along. And so using the lyrics of the song is obviously a very important part of their learning process as they're using music. And that brings us to video production. You know, nowadays an iPhone is probably a more advanced camera, video camera, than the video cameras we bought even 5, maybe 10 years ago. I know my iPhone shoots HD video. So one of the things that you could do as a project with your students, depending on their age group and depending on their ability to have technology, is you can have them produce their own video that then they could bring to share with the classroom. So let's say you assign them one of the parables and they want to reenact one of the parables and be able to videotape it when they're doing it. And so they and kids are very creative nowadays, and they can videotape these the scene of the parable, and then they can edit it. Now I don't know personally what the editing software is, but kids know what the editing software is. They put it in there and they make their own videos, and they can edit them, and they could be really beautiful videos. And it's a good way for them to learn about the parables, the scripture stories, plus be able to use technology as well. And if you do have one of these private Facebook, private YouTube channels that it's only for your religious education class, maybe you could even post it there so other parents and families can be able to view them. Or have a little film festival at the end of your religious education class that you're able to show the videos to one another. Maybe bring popcorn and sodas and have a really good time. Which brings us to the culmination of the presentation, which is parents and communication. So in the past, what I would recommend to catechists is I would say, we really need to communicate with parents, and you really need to send stuff home with them. Usually what I would say to them is send paper documents home and have them be able to respond to you, maybe sign the book as you send it home that they've done the homework with the children. But nowadays, I think technology has really revolutionized that, because if you establish a method of communication with them, let's say email or text messaging or Facebook, the social networking, or a blog, maybe you create a blog, then you can communicate with them. Let's just say, for example, email. You can communicate with them via email, and instead of sending them a paper document home for them to be able to complete homework, you just send them an email and you tell them, every Tuesday I'm going to send the homework email, and instead of there being a document on there, there's links to websites where they can go and download either a video to watch together, or a prayer service to watch together, or maybe even send them to our Sadlier website, where we have worksheets that they can do at home with the children. And so it's a new way to communicate with them. And in some cases, you know, some of these parents are stuck in their minivans in traffic for hours and hours, and maybe as they're driving in traffic, they can download all that stuff and they can have a conversation in their cars while they're stuck in traffic about their religious education. So to me, technology really brings them back to this sense of being able to communicate in a more immediate way and be able to stay in touch with all their religious education. And so that kind of brings us to the end of our presentation. Here's a little prayer that I share with you that will be on the handout that is attributed to St. Isidore of Seville, who, of course, is the patron saint of the Internet. And so with that, I will open it up to questions, if anybody has any questions that I might be able to answer in these next few minutes.
Oh, Victor, thank you very much. This is quite the good presentation, and I do have to say I felt very old at the very beginning because I recognized all of those pictures. So that was not fair, but thank you. We do have several questions. One, first starting with, you had mentioned Web 1.0 and then went to Web 2.0. Could you explain a little bit about what you mean by that?
Yeah, so basically the original web internet search was called Web 1.0, and what that was is that the web was a place where we went to go read information. That's it. We didn't interact with that information. We just read it. You know, maybe we were researching something and we read about a book or something, but there was no interaction. Web 2.0 is interaction. It's where we become involved with the website. As I mentioned, the example that I gave was of your local newspaper, where you're able to add comments at the bottom, or blogging, or Facebook, or Twitter. All these new interactions with the web are this Web 2.0, which I think can really help us in religious education.
Okay, thank you. The next is a question that would be of great concern. Dr. Thompson, you would ask, what about copyright and image search items? I guess the same would be true about music or anything else you download, too.
Right. Well, I think if you do iTunes and you're just using it in the classroom, you know, iTunes you have to purchase, obviously, so you purchase, I would imagine, some sort of, I'm not a copyright expert, but I would imagine there's some sort of licensing you purchase there. The other thing I suggested was YouTube videos. Now, YouTube videos are open to anybody to see on YouTube, and I imagine there's some sort of thing there. I don't think you can charge admission to come see a YouTube video. That's where you'd cross the line on that. But I think if you're using it just for personal use in the classroom, I don't think there's a problem with that. But again, your diocese and maybe even your parish will have an internet use policy that that everybody should go consult. I know when I've been in diocese giving this presentation, they said, yeah, our diocese has a very clearly spelled out policy on what we can and cannot use from the internet.
Okay, thank you. And a number of the images that are rights protected, they're clearly noted. So you will see that. Cindy, thank you. You had mentioned the site of CatholicIcing.com for a lot of information for younger children.
Catholic what, I'm sorry?
Catholic Icing, CatholicIcing.com. CatholicIcing.com is a good resource. Here's a concern, though. Most churches, and Michael, thank you for it, most churches and religious ed spaces don't have good internet connection. This limits what can be done in class online, such as showing a YouTube or Facebook video. Any ideas on how to deal with that?
Yes. One of the things that I didn't mention, which always comes up, so YouTube has a way to download videos and save them. I know I've been able to do it on the iPad, and I'm sure there must be a way to do it on your desktop. And the way that I did this, and this is actually a good tip for if you need an IT person, you know, all your IT questions can now sort of be answered on Google. You go on there and you just ask Google, you know, how do I do this? And somehow tons of articles will come up on how you do those kinds of things. So go on Google and type, how do I download a video so that I can view it offline? And I do that because I have the same issue. When I go and give presentation in places, I'm not assured that I'm going to have a reliable internet connection. So so I download it so it's offline, and then I'm sure that I can show it off my off my saved documents in my iPad or off my hard drive in my on my desktop.
Okay. Thank you. Now, Cindy had mentioned she finds a problem, and I think you emphasized it when you're doing a search to be sure to include the word Catholic in your searching. Cindy mentioned that a lot of her catechists don't check things like that, and they're oftentimes come in with Protestant issue of 10 Commandments, and as well as other downloads. So you're mentioning the word Catholic was quite important. Now, Mr. Kuhl, you had mentioned, do you know of parishes who have established a parish council of electronic communications and technology? I myself am not familiar with it. If any of you by chance have any information on that, please email it to me, Debbie M, DEBBIEM @sadlier.com, and we'll be sure to share that with all of you. I do know on the Bishop's site, on the usccb.org, there are guidelines on the use of social media, but I'm not familiar with the Parish Council of Electronic Communications and Technology. That's pretty good. We're down to the final 3 minutes. I'll ask a couple more questions on this, and
let me just respond back to the Catholic in the search. You know, when you do a search, the more specific descriptors you enter into the box, the more specifically you'll find. It's like mining. The more specific activities will come up. So if you're looking for an activity, let's say Good Samaritan, that's obviously Catholic, but let's say you want it for 3-year-olds. You just type in the word 3-year-olds, activity for 3-year-olds, and those kinds of things will be the ones that will come up in the search.
Okay, and just as one last comment, if you look at the screen, you'll see the watermark across the picture. Mr. Kuhl had pointed this out. That does show it's rights protected.
Right.
Because it does. That's one way to find out if your pieces are rights protected or not, and the watermark doesn't go away. Now, another person, Mr. Smith, Michael Smith, you had asked about Prezi. Prezi is spelled P-R-E-Z-I.
Yeah, now that's an advanced tool. I consider that an advanced tool, but it's similar to PowerPoint in the sense that it's a presentation tool, but it's web-based. I have an app on my iPad that I use as well. The reason I didn't bring it up because it's a little bit more complicated for people to use, but you know, people that have used PowerPoint and are bored with it or have run it to the end are wanting to something a little bit more cool, and Prezi is very cool because it zooms in on a variety of images, and the way it's organized, it's not as linear as PowerPoint. It's more like a circular, kind of like that mapping, you know, that mind mapping that is very common now. And so, yeah, Prezi is a great tool, but it's a presentation tool, and I do think it's a little advanced for some people that maybe have not mastered PowerPoint.
Okay, thank you. All right, we are at the close of this webinar and the time, and we so much appreciate your taking the hour with us to go through the presentation. There are several questions that have not been answered. We'll send you an email of answering them offline. And again, you have Victor's blog where you could write to him at, and I gave you my email address, debbiem@sadlier.com. If while you're working on your projects or that, if you have questions, I no way on earth tell myself or tout to be any tech specialist. And some of you that know me out there, you're probably laughing at it. But I can try to help walk through things with you too. I would be willing to assist you. And one other point to mention is that we are offering a certificate of attendance to those attending this so that you can hand it in for your credits or the units that are needed. You'll receive an email probably tomorrow thanking you for attending and asking you to, there'll be a link to click, and in that link we ask for your name and your address. We print certificates here in the office and we'll mail them to you. So again, we thank you, and I think that takes care of everything. If you happen to see Victor throughout his travels across country, please say hello. And thank you. Victor, any closing words for us?
No, thank you for being present today to our webinar.
Yes, thanks. And please join us again. Check out sadlierreligion.com, Year of Faith, for other webinars that we have had. And we'll be sure to send you links to others that are coming up in the future. Father Peter, that Victor showed you on our Year of Faith website, he'll be having one for us in February on Lent. Thank you, and we hope you all get home safely and stay warm. Thanks.